Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the last Wednesday of November, November 29th, 2023. What does that mean? Material issues time. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records, right here for episode number 131 of Material Issues. I'm over here in the East Coast where it's dark already. Probably not quite so dark on the West Coast, but joining me as he always does, my very good friend and president of International Pop Overthrow, Mr. David Bash. Good after evening, David. How are you?
I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. What the heck? It's cold as, you know, very
Yeah,
cold
I do know.
in South Jersey,
Some
but
something that sounds like Snitch's bit.
yeah, right. But it's all right. It's refreshing. I take my dog out for a walk. It wakes me up. We come in here and we're going to have another episode of Material Issues. So what's not to love? Hey, shout out to Andy Hartley, last week's winner of the Material Issues t-shirt. That's winging its way to the UK as we speak.
Wow.
So UK presence there. Mr. Barry Gutman checking in. Good evening,
Hey,
Barry.
Barry. Good to see
Good
you.
to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, what wonderful time. We just had Record Store Day on Friday, which you were, I don't know, you were still
No,
in
I was in
Canada.
Toronto, and they have Record Store Day as well.
Yeah, I didn't know if you had a chance to
Admittedly,
get there.
I did. I hit 3 record stores, 3 of the best, and I got some very cool stuff. We don't have time to go through it now, but
No.
I'll just give you a couple of highlights. Original copies of the first 2 Silver Sun albums.
Yep. You told me about that. It's great.
And I did. Oh,
Yeah.
and an original copy of Apple Venus Volume 2, or Wasp Star,
Wasp Star.
a gatefold pressing from back in the day, which was great. And of
Nice.
course, the Let It Be box set, the actual one with a box, Canadian pressing. So in that respect, it was successful, as was IPO Toronto. It was great.
Nice.
Excellent venue, the Painted Lady, really good people, great bands, just a lot of old friends. It was great. So all 3 of them worked out well. I think we have homes now in New York, Boston, and Toronto where we don't have to worry about, like, am I going to have to find a new venue and all the trials and tribulations that go along with that.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a good thing. It's really great to be home, though. As good a time as I had. I'm now going to be home for an extended period. Good afternoon, Tim. Good afternoon, Andy. Congratulations on the t-shirt.
It's winging its way to you, Andy.
Yeah, so
I was happy. We talked about this briefly, though, but Splinter.
I haven't found one yet. Damn it.
That Record Store Day. It's actually, we thought it was going to be their second album, but it's The Place I Love. It's the debut with a little Obi strip on it too. But nice gatefold, wonderful album. So
where did you find it? Because I didn't find it anywhere in Toronto, nor have I found it yet anywhere in LA.
Well, I went to a place here in South Jersey that everybody goes to for Record Store Day because they stock like a lot, and they had a lot of everything, but they had one Splinter, and they said he said that's the only one I got in. So
yeah, I know. Most places didn't order it because they didn't think anyone would buy it. Gee, I wonder who that Facebook user is.
Yeah. But yeah, all in all, great Record Store Day. A lot of fun. Got some picked up Mamas and the Papas live at Monterey. I picked up Beach Boys Christmas. Yeah. Beach Boys Christmas. I picked up, of course, Sweet Level Headed Demos, which is nice.
I did get in Toronto.
And so
that's one of the few Record Store Day things I did get. And I did get an LP version of the Transcontinental Highwayman album.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And of course, I got the Jonas Brothers double for my daughter. So I was a good dad.
You're a good dad.
Early Christmas for her.
So anyway, I'm home for an extended period, 4 months plus. Gonna see if I can arrange an IPO back in Phoenix. We missed it earlier this year. Maybe back in Detroit at PJ's Lager House. I'm hoping so.
Nice.
Along with the all the ones that we did last year. I mean, earlier this year, we'll do again. But
nice, Barry. Great. I saw that.
So yeah, I have this I don't want to say newfound optimism, but I just feel really good coming out of those 3 IPOs.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And, unlike other years where I vacillate between should I be doing this or is it worth it?
Yeah.
And let's do it again. Now it's complete, all systems go. So I'm feeling really, really good right now.
Makes you feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, speaking of good, we have a very good guest for us today on material issues.
Yeah.
She's a music attorney. Well, I mean, more technically, I'm going to ask her exactly how she classifies herself. But, most of her clients are musicians. She does contracts for them and advises them on just basically how to stay safe in this cutthroat music world. She wrote a book called Don't Get Screwed, How to Protect Yourself as an Independent Musician. So she does have musicians' best interests at heart. She was awarded one of the top music lawyers in Billboard a couple of years ago. Super Lawyers Rising Star as well. One of the top women attorneys in Southern California. She's renowned, and we're very glad to have her as a guest. So without further ado, would you please give a huge material issues welcome to Erin Jacobson.
Esquire,
yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to say that, David. I had it
queued up. No, I didn't. I guess I didn't pay attention to the. Well, anyway, no, I did not say it. But yes, she is indeed an Esquire. Under what law do you consider yourself? Are you intellectual property or?
Well, I call myself a music lawyer, but there's a lot of copyright that. Everything we do in music involves copyright. So I'm always working with copyright, but I don't do like infringement lawsuits and that stuff. I don't go to court. I just do the deals.
Well, when you say you do the deals, you're talking from an artist's group standpoint, or vice versa, or are you talking both?
Yeah, but it can be both, not at the same time, because I can't represent both sides at once, but it just depends who my clients are. So I represent independent artists, songwriters, composers, but I also represent managers, producers, indie record labels, independent music publishers. And then I also work a lot in the legacy catalog space. So I work a lot with estates, heirs, people like that, where we're, protecting the catalog and the legacy of the catalog and, issues that come up with that. I work with a lot of songwriters for termination rights, which is a mechanism in the copyright law after a certain period of time, and meeting a complicated set of circumstances that is a little too complicated to get into all the nuances today, but it allows authors to reclaim ownership of their works that they've granted away to a third party over the years. And so I do a lot of work in that space as well.
You were with Bug Music for a while, right?
When I was in law school, I worked for them for a little while. Yeah.
Kelly Ryan then, I guess.
I know a lot of people, and then almost nobody is there anymore because they got bought and, everybody moved on to different places.
Right.
So.
Well, right out of the gates, if I can just piggyback on just some of the things you talked about before we get into some other history and why you even got into this line of work. But will it ever become easier for independent record labels or small labels to license material that is very old and languishing in vaults that the big boys just don't want to release, under any decent kind of cost structure to us, just because they can say, no, we don't feel like, selling it to you for any kind of, because that's one thing that has gotten in by crawl and gotten into a lot of people's crawl over the years, is that we know that there's this great music that's in the vaults of the big boys, and they're unreasonable in their requests.
They'll tell you that it's not worth it to even get our in-house attorneys to write up a contract
Mhm.
unless you pay us $30,000 for an album that wouldn't sell, a third of that kind of revenue. So, yeah, hopefully, go ahead and answer Mark's question.
Well, no, I mean, you kind of just answered it, because if they don't feel that it is financially worthwhile for them to spend the time and to do something with it, then they, as a business, they make that choice not to a lot of times. So will it get easier? I don't know, because it's really going to depend on what it is and what label you're working with, and maybe there have been instances, and especially catalogs that I've worked with, where there was an album or a song that really didn't do anything when it was released. It wasn't a hit, anything like that, and somebody knows about it and licenses it for a sync or something like that, and then all of a sudden everybody wants it and there's a resurgence. And so I would say, if there's maybe some situation like that where there is some sort of new interest in it, then maybe it would be easier. But I would say in that situation is probably more likely than the label would just re-release it themselves if they feel that there's going to be income there. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like, it's their intellectual property that they own, so they can decide what to do with it, and they don't always have the same views as as maybe fans or indies have.
But do you know any tips for a label person like Mark to go in and maybe circumvent all that, or just to, I don't know, just to
not if you want the original masters.
Yeah. See, that's kind of like 95% of the battle is getting to talk to somebody who actually knows what you're talking about, because I know where it's at. I know that they own it, but they won't even give you the time of day to say, yeah, we do own it. We do have, it's just, they put you through such a runaround that you don't know who you're talking to. Would someone like you be a go-between between a small indie label and a Universal to say, listen, we can we talk about this? Can we license something? Get it done?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, get it done in some fashion. It's very hard from a label point of view to deal with somebody like that directly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say that I would have a better chance of being able to talk to somebody there, but I can't force them to be interested in doing the project.
Right,
so
exactly.
If it's something that they're not interested in, it's they're still not going to be interested in it. But
I had to get it off my chest, though. So to speak.
But, well, you may know, but you may know exactly. You may know the things to say to them that might.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it. I think it would get you farther in than just trying to do it on your own. I mean, it's always, whenever there's a lawyer representing you, people tend to pay more attention. But again, if it's not a project that they're interested in,
and the other side of the coin, as a small indie label, how much money can you spend even on an attorney fee in order to get somebody to agree to do whatever? Again, it's not cost effective, so to speak. Somebody's advertising for you already.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Not sure who this Facebook user is, but yeah, thanks very much.
So why are you a music and entertainment attorney? What was the light bulb that went off that got you into this?
Yeah, so I've always loved music. I've always been a fan of music, and did not, as a child student, didn't know anything about the business side of music. So I thought, if you work in music, you're a musician, and that's it. Right. And then when I was in college, I took an introduction to the music industry course, because my college had a very good music industry program.
USC, right?
USC, fight on. So that was where we learned what an agent does, what a manager does. We learned a little bit about record deals. We learned about, publishing. So it was like a little sampling of the business side. And as part of that, we learned that there are lawyers that represent artists and songwriters and, negotiate the deals for them. And we also learned a lot of the horror stories about, artists getting screwed in these deals. And once I learned that being a music lawyer and protecting musicians was a real job, I thought, that's it. That's what I'm doing. And I never looked back after that. Went to law school, opened my own practice right after I finished school and passed the bar. And I've been doing that ever since. And so, now, yes, I represent companies as well. But part of the beauty of owning my own firm is that I can pick what clients I work with. So I also make sure that the companies that I work with are cool. So
if I may ask, when were you, and this is pertinent to my next question, but when were you in college, or when were you in law school?
I was in law school from 2006 to 2009. So
by that time, the whole major label infrastructure had changed. By the end of the 90s, when Napster had come in and basically ruined everything for major labels and record stores for a time. You came in after that. So were you doing a lot of business with major labels, or was it mostly artists on indie labels?
So I just opened my own firm. I started independently. So when I first started, it was mostly independent artists, independent labels, etc. And then as my practice grew, the clients and size of the clients and size of the deals and people that I was interacting with and negotiating with also grew along with that. So now I still do work with indies, but I also negotiate with a lot of majors and, have very famous clients and things like that. I can't name names due to confidentiality, but people you would know.
That's all right. Taylor already told me. It's okay.
I don't represent Taylor.
No, I knew that. That's why.
Yeah. So that cancels my next question as far as what was your first wow client where you went, holy cow. So we won't even ask that question.
Wow.
It's well,
it's always fun though when you get the wow.
Oh, sure. And you've had wows, so that's all we need to know. You've had some wows.
But at the end of the day, they're people. And,
sure.
And that's the thing. There are creative people that I am protecting, and, I'm not sitting there, fangirling out over them and stuff, because they're people and it's my job to protect them and tell them the truth and make sure that they're making good decisions. And
it is a business. At the end of the day, it's a business, and it's how they, it's how they make their livelihood, and it's what they've got to live off of. And it's very real for them. And many people on the other side that aren't involved in the business of it all just see the glamour side of everything and see the glossy pictures on the front of the album, and they don't know everything that goes into it behind the scenes, and how a lot of artists are not making the money to survive. So because of bad deals, that hopefully you circumvent all that. But
what kind of music did you enjoy growing up? Did that change in college?
It evolved, and then I kind of went back to it. So I grew up as a kid. Elvis was my absolute favorite.
Wow.
And then that went to Beatlemania and the Stones and classic rock and Clapton and, Steve Winwood and all the people. And, and then I kind of, I was in college, so I was into more indie music and, kind of, lesser known, not known, but, genres that not the mainstream are into. I was into rockabilly and Northern soul and
Northern soul.
All these different things. And then I was like, now I'm just like back to Elvis. I mean, I kind of like came full circle, and I like, you know, everything that I've liked over the years, but you know, I have to, the ones that were my favorites are still my favorites. So it's been sort of a full circle kind of thing.
How was it that, did you advertise in such a way that clients, that you gained clients whose music you liked, or was it more random than that?
You know, it was very organic because I did not advertise that way. I mean, I don't really advertise at all, but I didn't, you know, it wasn't like I went out there and said, oh, I like this music, so like you people should come to me. But kind of organically it happened. Like people and deals that were associated with artists and the type of music that I liked just naturally came to me. And so then it ended up being just really cool that I ended up being able to work on music and help artists and songwriters that I already liked their music. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was just really lovely. So.
It's really important because, you know, when I do my International Pop Overthrow Festival, I only book artists I like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe to the detriment of the success of the festival. I don't know, because, you know, although the music that we feature is of very, very high quality, it's not necessarily the most popular. I mean, you know, we do power pop and indie rock and singer songwriters and psychedelic pop, and but I wouldn't trade it for anything because these are good people and I love their music. So to be able to have, well, I don't really consider the people who play the festival clients, but to be able to have people in your circle, in your work circle, who you like and who do it, you know, do the kind of music you like, it's priceless, really.
Yeah. It makes work much more fun.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Elvis, my daughters went and saw Anne Margaret last night at Epcot.
Oh, cool.
So they're huge Elvis fans, but of course Anne Margaret.
Right.
You know.
Now we assumed you were talking about Presley and not Costello.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, I assume Presley. You know, it's awesome. Erin, in today's music climate, can independent artists and groups and such make a living?
Yes.
And you know, without really having the airplay or the major label or mid-major support or whatnot. Is it a better climate for an independent artist these days to be independent and handle their own affairs than, you know, previously?
Yeah, I mean, they should still have team members because there's business and legal things that they need, whether they're independent, whether they're, you know, the biggest artists on the planet. They face a lot of the same issues. They need contracts with the people they work with. They need legal protection. They need, you know, sometimes they need management. Not all of them have managers, things like that. But as far as being able to make a living as an artist or a songwriter without having a major company backing, it definitely is possible because I have clients that do it. And it really depends. I mean, back in the day, if we're talking about like going back to the 50s and 60s, you had to have a major label. They were the gatekeeper. That was the only way, you know, or at least, you know, I mean, okay, there's exceptions with some of the independents, and that's how kind of rock and roll broke out because some of the independent DJs were playing the independent records and stuff.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, but really, I mean, the major labels were the ones with the money and the power and all the things. And while they still have that, the internet, you know, really opened the playing field. So there are independent artists that have their fan base and, you know, they're able to make a living. And there are a lot of songwriters also that, you know, have a lot of their career where they write for television and things like that. So they're able to make a living that way. And yeah, it's much more possible than it. I don't think that was great grammar.
Yeah, but see,
we're not.
David and I are not English majors. We understood you.
I know. If I was drafting, it would have been better.
Well, so of course, you know, which leads you to the book that you wrote. So my question is, you know, not to give away too much in the book or whatnot, but obviously an independent artist or group or band, there it is. Don't get screwed. How to protect yourself as an independent musician. So you're an independent musician, and as you said, they should have other people on their team. There should, you know, but if you're a band that's, you know, maybe pressed their own, you know, first album or whatever, and you're out and you're trying to sell and you're trying to do other things, is your book something that they can turn to that's going to kind of give you A to Z what you should or shouldn't do, what you should or shouldn't sign, what you know, the things that you need to do? Is it that kind of a book? Because I haven't read it yet. That's the
yeah, no, that's fine. I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah.
So I start out, basically what this book is it's a handbook of the basics that you need to know about copyright, about royalties, and the typical types of agreements that independent artists will encounter. So I start out about what copyright is, why you need to register your work. So in your example of, you know, a group that's just putting out their own music, they still need that music to be protected because they have to show ownership. There could be some infringement situation later on. So I talk about, you know, why it's important, what you get when you register your works for copyright. And then the whole next section is about royalties. So I go over the different types of royalty streams. So all the different publishing royalties, which is for the musical composition, and then the different master royalties, which are for the recording income. And so I talk about not only the difference in ownership between the composition and the master recordings, but then also the different royalties and streams of income for each of those, and what organizations or societies you need to sign up with to be able to collect those, what they're for. So I explain what the royalties, like, you know, not just naming them, but what they're for, what actually generates that income, and then how you collect those. So I have, let me find the chart. I have like a whole chart that's like a multi-page chart that tells you what the royalty is, whether it's for the composition or the master, what right of copyright it corresponds to, what use generates that, how do you collect it, which, you know, part of the reason why I wrote this book is because while there are some really great music industry books out there that I love, nothing was really starting at these basics that I would get asked about all the time at events and things like that. Like if I was doing an event for indie musicians, people would always be asking me these questions. And so I felt like people really needed this foundation. Yeah. And then the third part of the book, we go over different types of agreements. So we go over like explaining publishing splits and publishing agreements, producer deals, work for hires. And then I share real world examples, not naming names, because I can't do that as we discussed, but I do share real world examples of instances where artists have, you know, gotten screwed and what they could have done to prevent that, so that independent musicians can learn from that and not make the same mistakes. Yeah. So it really is like the foundational pieces. And then once you understand that, you know, all the other books will make more sense. Mm-hmm. And it's, you know, it's not a large book. It's meant to be a handbook and something that you can take with you. I mean, I've had musicians say like, oh, I bring it in my bag when I have writing sessions. So that way, like, I know how to discuss the splits with, with the co-writer and stuff. Cause that's another thing. Like so many, writers and artists, they don't discuss these things with their collaborators because they don't know how to. They don't understand the terms and the language. And so, that's another thing. And this is something that empowers them to be able to have those conversations and understand what royalties we're talking about, or, what splits we're talking about,
Right.
things like that.
Often artists don't want to discuss that thing. They just want to make their art. So they and which is the reason why they get screwed, because then they leave that in the hands of people who may very well be unscrupulous. And
this is true.
They
That's
stay,
a
they
lot of
stay
horror
ignorant
stories
of
come
of
from
those
that.
things.
Yeah.
and also just finding your way around the crazy web that is not only royalties here based in the U.S., but international royalties, and how you go about collecting that, and where that comes from, and where you need to register, and because a lot of these terrestrial stations can be broadcast all over the world and in many different ways, and goofy things like airlines. It's everywhere. So just tracking that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I focus more on the U.S. In the book, but I mean, luckily, all of the U.S. societies have reciprocal agreements around the world. So if there is something that's being played internationally, it's very likely that when you're registered with the proper societies in the U.S., that money will flow through to you. So.
And your book, it can be found on Amazon, and also, is it via your website? I'm just scrolling it around the bottom there. The Music Lawyer.
So the link is on my website, but to actually purchase it, it's through Amazon, and it's also on Barnes and Noble's website.
Okay, great. So you can find a link via the musicindustry.lawyer.com, or check out Amazon. Of course, it is Don't Get Screwed: How to Protect Yourself as an Independent Musician.
Yeah, and I do want to just say one quick thing about, which I should have said at the beginning, but just anybody watching this, anything I say on here is not legal advice, doesn't create an attorney-client relationship, is not an advertisement, it's only general informational purposes. So I'm always supposed to say that. So.
No, absolutely. I was at CVS today, Erin, and a little old lady next to me was asking the pharmacist where the Metamucil was, because she had a very bad sinus infection. And I turned to her and I said, I don't think you mean Metamucil. I think you mean Mucinex. Mm-hmm. She goes, oh, do I need Mucinex? I said, I'm not a doctor.
Right. You have to give a disclaimer.
I'm just
yeah.
Except you really are a lawyer, so you get to say that stuff.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah. What percentage is credit each writer when registering work? Centric ask. Not sure what.
Well, any administration company will want to know, what each writer's percentage is. So, because that's, when there's co-writers that are represented by different companies, they usually only administer their share of the song. So, so they need to know, what percentage of royalties they're allowed to collect, for example.
So, what kind of fuzzy area does AI and some super fakes and things have to do? I know you were involved with, or did I read somewhere with Elvis estate and or what estate was that?
I've worked with a lot of estates.
Yeah, but
you can't tell us. So.
Yeah, you can't tell, but it can be very difficult. But in today's world, there's a lot of things that can be faked entirely. I guess that's part of the things you can't talk about is attacking places that actually do that on behalf of estates and things too. I guess that gets interesting as well. So forget I asked that.
Well, let me ask you something in general, because Erin, let me ask you something in general, because I know everything's different for particular cases. But let's say you're an indie artist just starting out. Would you advise them to try and sign with a label, or would you advise them to try and do it all themselves? I mean, maybe having a team, but a team of people that they know and trust. as opposed to going in and trying to do the label thing? What would you advise right now?
So it depends on the artist, actually. So I have some artists that I would advise to sign with the label and some that I wouldn't, because it really depends on what their goals are. And when I'm working with clients, I'm looking at their individual goals as a creator, or if it's a company, you know, what the company wants to achieve. But for an independent artist, I'm looking at that artist's goals and where they want their career to go. And, you know, most labels are not just signing unknown people. They're usually people have to have some sort of online following and a certain number of streams and things like that before certainly a major label will be interested in them, because they want to see a built-in fan base and some revenue generation and some buzz around that artist before they're really interested in signing. I mean, they have people whose job it is to like watch all these data trends in order to find new artists. And the majority of, you know, companies will not accept unsolicited material and things like that. So it's, you know, most people are having to start out and build a fan base on their own before getting signed. But, you know, whether they then, you know, choose to try to go down that route or to stay independent, you know, is dependent upon the artist and what they want their career to be and how much control they want to have. And
but there's certainly a lot of middle ground between signing to a major and signing to a small indie. I mean, so the question, I really wasn't even thinking in terms of major labels now.
Okay.
Most of the artists I know, you know, they neither do the style of music nor have the inclination to sign with a major anyway. But I'm talking about like a small indie label versus doing it yourself. What would you say there?
I think it depends who it is. I mean, it has to be the right label, you know, because they have to be the right partner for the artist and see the creative vision and promote them in the right way. And, you know, I've seen independent labels that are very good, and I've seen independent labels that, you know, are very unprofessional and, you know, don't know how to pay out the royalties and things like that.
Yeah.
So it really depends on the artist and the label and whether it's the right fit. So, I mean, I think the answer to this question is always going to be, it depends, because what's right for one person is not necessarily right for another person. And what I tell indies all the time, even indie songwriters that are maybe getting licensing deals or publishing deals or offers, things like that. You know, when you're independent and you get an offer, especially when it's your first offer, it's like you're really excited and you want to sign it because somebody made you an offer. But, you know, if there's one offer, there's usually going to be other offers, and you have to pick the one that really is going to be beneficial. And I've had quite a few clients that, you know, after talking with me and going over the details, have said, you know what, I'm really glad I talked to you about this, because I see now that this particular deal is, you know, the terms of it aren't really what I want, or aren't really right for me, or I'm giving up more than what I want to. And so, you know, then they decide to wait for another offer. And, you know, and then I've had people that say, you know, I don't care, I just want to sign it. And then 6 months later, they go, get me out of it. I told you not to sign it to begin with. But then
go ahead, I'm sorry.
This is where it works out really well. So, you know, again, it depends. I know that's not an exact answer, but
in this day and age, it really does
anyway. Everything is, you know, as you said, different individuals have different wants and needs and goals. And so, yeah, I'm sure it does depend. But let me ask you this in general. What, again, if somebody is going through the process of trying to choose an indie label, what are the obvious red flags that musicians need to look for?
Well, I think there's two parts to that, because there's the people and then there's the contractual details. I mean, first, if the people are not people that you want to be spending a lot of time with and are making decisions with and for you, that's a problem. For example, I had a client who wanted to work with this indie label, and the person at the label was just had a terrible personality. This person just screamed at everybody all the time. And I said, I don't think this is a person that you're going to want to work with. Nobody's going to want to work with you if they have to deal with this person.
I know that person.
There's more than one of them.
No,
but,
I know.
yeah, but and the artist was like, no, it's fine. That's just their way. And, that was one of the artists that, 6 months later wanted out of their contract. So I think there's that perspective of, are these people that you want to work with? Do they get your vision? This is a partnership in a way. So there's that. Then there's the contract, because that's what I deal with on a daily basis. And so I'm looking at, was it professionally drafted? Or is it what I call Franken contract, where they cut and pasted from 5 different ones that they found on, some free website or something? Because that makes me question the professionality of the company. And whether, if they can't get the contract right, how are they going to be on other aspects? And are they going to know how to pay your royalties and things like that? And then from that, I start looking at deal terms. Are the deal terms very unfair? Are you signing your entire life away?
Right.
Things like that. So, that gets more into the nitty gritty. But
what do you think the future of the music industry holds? What worries you? Or do you think about down the road and how it's changing and your role in it and just everything? It's bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's always going to need lawyers, because you need to protect your work. Anytime you're entering into any sort of agreement or working with a third party, those terms need to be clear to define the relationship. Who's giving up what, who can do what with what, who's getting paid what, when do they get paid? I mean, these things all need to be clearly set out so that there's no misunderstandings between the parties. And people need people that understand the inner workings of the business and to be able to advise them on these decisions and issues. And so I feel that, lawyers are always going to have a role in the industry.
Sure, yeah.
At the time that we're doing this interview, the big issue is AI. And so many people are now incorporating AI or using AI in the creation of music. And how is that going to play out? And that's still unknown. I mean, the Copyright Office has, set out guidelines about what will be protected and what won't, and things like that. But as far as how widespread and what the impact of AI usage is going to be is still remains to be seen. But I think that's one of the big issues that everybody's watching right now. But as far as, the industry, I think, thankfully it's come back from that, what we talked about earlier in the interview, where the industry was really in a tough place because of the illegal downloading. And, even though streaming doesn't pay a lot, it has, brought back the industry with the model. And as we said, the internet has really opened things up. So I think there is a lot more opportunity for independent artists and people that want to do things on their own. And I think that, people like Taylor Swift actually are really pushing the industry into one that's going to require more transparency and some more artist-friendly practices. But the music industry is not the fastest industry to change historically either. So I don't think any of these things are going to be immediate, but I think it's sort of going in that direction, and that's that's part of the reason why I wrote the book. That's why I have my second company, Indie Artist Resource, which has contract templates for musicians that are not ready to get a lawyer, that need a more DIY solution. It has educational resources for people to learn about the business, because I think there's only going to be more and more independent musicians, and and especially those ones that are starting out. I mean, they need access to the same information that the famous people do. So,
do you have an opinion on the streaming services and what they do pay the artists? The Spotify's. What's
I
didn't know which side you were representing today.
With that thing where it's like, if you have under a certain amount of streams, they're not going to pay people. So that means that the people that are just getting started, or even a lot of the legacy acts that maybe aren't as popular as they used to be, they're not going to get paid. I mean, artists and songwriters should be getting paid on every stream that that they get. And as it is, streams are fractions of a penny anyway. And so that's another big issue. I mean, that the publisher advocacy groups are fighting for better, more fair pay to songwriters. And I mean, the streaming services, I mean, yes, they've helped really bring our industry back, but some pay, as a whole, streaming doesn't pay a lot per stream. You have to get a lot of streams to make a lot of money. But there are some streaming services that pay better than others, which, frankly, I don't like, because streaming services' entire business model is built on music, yet they don't want to pay for the music that makes up their entire business. So it's a point of.
Do you think somebody's going to come? Do you think someone's going to come up with a service that actually does pay musicians fairly?
Well, there have been some that have come out, but they haven't become the mainstream services yet. So I think it's certainly possible.
Does internet law still have a long way to go? Are there still a lot of gaps, or has it become more solidified?
What do you mean for internet law?
Well, I mean, obviously, when with the advent of the internet, there were certain things that were different than when everything was terrestrial,
right?
And so it could have caused some conundrums that never existed prior. Do you think it's solidified yet, or are there still?
No, because the thing is and I don't know if it will ever be fully solidified, because technology moves much faster than the law. So people are always coming out with new technologies and innovating in that space, and it takes the law time to catch up to that, because it's like, oh wait, well now this technology is doing this thing, but we don't have a mechanism for that in the law, so now we have to figure this out and catch up. So it's definitely more solidified than it was, but because technology keeps evolving, it's always going to be a catch-up game, I think.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting where it's going to go. I mean, the internet and the technology exists to not allow us to play music on this thing for very long, and they're giving us the check mark. You played music, but then again, they say
meaning we can't play more than 10-second clips before YouTube comes in and says.
Excuse me, that becomes a licensing issue then.
It becomes a licensing issue, yes, but then again, they can't tell. Then again, they're not paying for everything that's being played everywhere, because they can't tell where it's being played. So it's it's a funny
Yeah,
thing.
the internet is still a whack-a-mole in some of these situations about finding all the music that's being played when it's not supposed to be played or it's not being paid. So yeah.
But I know you have to get going here shortly, Erin, and I see the time's rolling down. But we want to thank you so much for joining us here on Material Issues. Erin Jacobson, Esquire, the music industry lawyer.com is the site that you can find so much about you. And of course, we talked about your book, Don't Get Screwed: How to Protect Yourself as an Independent Musician. It's out there on Amazon. You can find it Barnes and Noble. So just go into Google, and somebody advertised earlier for you here. Where was that banner? I gotta find the well, it was under the comment. I want to make sure I put that back up here.
My website is themusicindustrylawyer.com, indie artist resources at indieartistresource.com, and then I see you've got the up there as well.
I love it. But yeah,
last question I have for you before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people who play my festival are older musicians. When I say early 30s to into their 60s, they've done this for a long time. Many of them don't. Many of them have day jobs. They do this more because they love it. But do you think somebody who's older could benefit from your service as much as someone starting out?
Yeah, because anytime that you're dealing with music, with the rights to music, with knowing how to collect the royalties from music, things like that. I mean, if somebody's 60 years old but they have an album on the streaming services, they need to be registered with the right places to get paid. And so yeah, I mean, anybody that makes music or owns music, like I said earlier, it's all the same issues that independents and famous people all have the same issues. It's just on a larger scale with,
And I think piggybacking onto that also, just real quick, you think about David. We've had artists from the 60s on this show that I think many of them are still being played on satellite radio and things, and they may not even know that they need 50 years later to be registered somewhere because there's royalties out there for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually, there was actually an issue, I'll close with this, where it was a very, 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 very famous song. And one of the writers was not registered with a performance rights organization and probably lost millions of dollars because that song got played so much over the last 50 years. So yeah, it's important for everybody. And I love working with, older artists, as well. And, cause I listen to a lot of that music. So
that's the title of your next book, How Not to Lose Millions.
Right.
well, I'm sold. Anybody who plays international pop overthrow, if you're looking for representation, you couldn't do much better than Erin M. Jacobson, Esquire. So
thank you, David.
Definitely look her up.
Okay.
Well, thank you again, Erin. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And
thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Take care.
Have a great night. Night.
Bye-bye. Well, that was fun.
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, she certainly appears to know what she's talking about. So
as we said here on Material Issues, we it's not always exactly about having artists on here, and this was music related, but it was different. And as you can tell from some of the comments, people were really interested in what she had to say. So that was really good. Yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Andy.
Thank you, Andy. She'll work with you even though you're in the UK. Not a problem.
She'll figure it out. But it's all good. But outside of that, yeah, everything's been pretty cool. We got some cool stuff coming up here in December. I'm just looking to see whether I had anything here, Stump the Bash wise, but yeah, I wish I did. I wasn't.
Actually, it's probably better that you didn't, because throughout this hour, I've noticed that my head is not working at all. I'm still very jet lagged, and probably will be for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That's usually what it takes to reorient myself. Maybe by next Wednesday I'll be a little bit more eloquent, but right now I feel like my head feels like it weighs about 500 pounds. So
I got you. I got
probably
you.
better that we skip it this week and talk about the guests that we have coming up.
Yeah.
Next week and next weekend we've been. It's something that we've always had on the back burner, but hadn't actually done anything about. But since he showed up as a commenter on our last episode, we realized that it was about time that we get Bruce Brodeen back for his second appearance on Material Issues, because his first one, I mean, he's done so much. He has such a rich history in this business, not to mention that he can talk up a storm. We didn't even eat after, I don't know how long it was, like 2 hours. We didn't even get to when he started Not Lame. I think that's where we left off.
We left off with, and then he was going to start Not Lame. And it's like, wait a minute, we've already been on here for 2 hours. I vote John Borak as Santa. Now that would be
Santa Claus with an E.
Yeah, that'd be funny. So we didn't even get to Not Lame. So that's gonna probably be another 2 hour session next.
And it's 2 hours with not one wasted minute, because all the guy does is give us gems. So it'll be a lot of fun for those of you who saw the first part or didn't. This is the part that people are really waiting for. How Not Lame started, how it worked, the whole bit.
How he created those wonderful, I guess, catalogs to order from. I used to look forward to that.
Extremely highly recommended.
Extremely highly recommended.
3 words in the lexicon of power pop that hadn't been there before. His catalogs were a thing of beauty, and of course all the artists that were on the label. And as I said last time he was on, the one in the early IPO years, the one question that I got more than any other was, is Bruce Brodeen here? He had developed such a mystique that everybody wanted to meet him. It was really something, and well deserved. So we have him. We have Bruce Brodeen on next week, which would be December 6th.
December 6th. That's my brother's birthday. That's my brother's birthday.
Oh, wow. Well, today is my brother's birthday.
That's right. I saw that. Happy birthday, Joel, if you watch this or watch it on archive.
Joel's working right now, but he will be watching it on archive. And it was nice. Joel. It's apropos because it was Joel who connected us with Erin in the first place.
There you go.
Yeah. So there you go. On the 13th, we will have a legend in both the power pop and the country rock arenas. His work with Radney Foster, for example, huge in the country arena. His solo album's much more power pop. And he has a new one coming out, which should be out probably within a week or so. Yes, we've got Mr. Bill Lloyd as our guest on December 13th.
Awesome.
And, many of us are huge fans of his. He's he's a good guy. No, I bought him something power pop. Not Boston.
Hey, come on, it's more than a feeling.
Mm-hmm. You must be smoking.
But yeah, Bill Lloyd.
I've had women tell me a man you'll never be. So anyway,
Bill Lloyd, and it's December 13th. That's going to be awesome as well. Wow. So
he's got a new album. I've heard a lot of the tracks so far, and it's a good one. It really is.
And that brings us up to like December 20th, which is going to be just post Hanukkah, pre-Christmas, just before my birthday. This could be a whole holiday spectacular we can put together for December 20th. I'm not sure what that means or what it will be, but we'll come up with something fun.
I'm sure we will. Yeah. Whatever it is, it'll be fun and maybe semi-informative.
It could be named this holiday power pop tune,
Oh, jeez. I kind of crave the old Stump the Bash.
We'll get back to that. We'll do the old Stump the Bash holiday spectacular.
There you go.
Which will just be the old Stump the Bash, but during the holidays.
Yeah. That works for me. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see if we get. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's gonna be good, Barry. Yeah, but
yeah, Bill's a good guy. He's played IPO several times in several cities, including Liverpool. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's back to back. Next 2 Wednesdays. Make sure you tune in. Join the channel here on Facebook and over on YouTube. Let everybody know. He's always on the tribute CDs because we've done 131 episodes now. They're all in archive. So if you ever get bored, just watch the archives. We're all over the place.
Even if you're not bored.
Yeah, even if you're not
anyway.
Bored. Watch them anyway. We're having a good time.
Well, the album full of Christmas power pop tunes. The best one for that is Yule Tunes that was on black vinyl, Shoes label. There's some amazing artists and tracks on there. Some of my favorites are Herb Eimerman. The song "You Gave Me." That was my favorite on Yule Tunes. And then the Cave Dogs with Three Wise Men and a Baby was another really big one. And trying to remember what else that I really. Oh, the Sponge Tones "Christmas Land." Oh, that just made me cry every time I heard it. Beautiful, beautiful song, and a whole bunch. And the aforementioned Kelly Ryan had a track on there too.
Oh yeah.
If you're a power pop fan and you don't have Yule Tunes, you need to find it. CD only, probably not all that expensive if you went on Discogs or eBay.
Yeah.
But man, what a collection! Matthew Sweet's on there also.
I remember.
I'm trying to remember his track, but I know I liked it a lot.
I don't know if I have it right here. My Christmas section. Probably not.
I know I don't have it within reachable distance. But yeah, I don't know if that's the one Andy has, but I would recommend it to anybody who doesn't have it.
No. Well, cool. Well, so it was a great night tonight. We've got 2 great shows coming up. We've got the Holiday Spectacular, whatever that may be, and then we're running towards the end of this year, and
Yeah, I'm going to be spending December listening to all the 2023 releases I've gotten.
Because you got a list to put together, my friend.
I've got a list to put together, and this year, for whatever reason, I've been lax in a lot of things. Fortunately, IPO wasn't one of them, but two of the things, I haven't written a damn review this whole year, and that needs to change for 2024. I need to get the muse back somehow. So there's that, and also I haven't listened to a lot of the stuff that I've bought or people have sent me. So I'm going to be doing that in earnest next month, so that I can put together my list in January.
And the only person who's upset about that would be Ernest.
Right.
Hey, we should start our own. I was going to say, there's not enough places that review this music anymore. We should start our own fanzine. We should start material.
You're talking about an actual physical zine?
An actual physical zine called Material Issues. That would be pretty cool. Who's Ernest?
Ernest Biner?
Yeah, I'm just saying that would be a pretty good idea. That we could actually put in print, bring back print reviews.
Let's see how much money we have to lose.
Everything. Our shirts, our houses, all our collections.
Not
your
my
wife
shirts.
Would be gone. I don't know. I don't know what we'd almost. I don't know. We'd have to talk about it. It'd be an interesting idea.
No, I would certainly love to do that. And if it was viable, and it may very well be. I mean, no one's done one for a while, really. It's all been online.
No one's done one for a while. A physical. There you go. Barry writes some reviews. A physical.
Yeah, I guess we could get. It wouldn't just have to be you and me. We could get other people to write.
We could get a lot of people involved.
Hey, why not Oddities Part 2?
We could put it out there and say, listen, here's what it is, and we could have a subscription base started before the first issue. We could, that'd be kind of interesting.
Well, all right. I'm highly considering this idea.
We're gonna have to think. We're gonna have to think about that. I don't know. I love that physical, something that comes in the mail that you look forward to.
No, there's nothing better than that. Online's just too unwieldy for me. I mean, of course I'll read
That Big
stuff.
Star had a magazine. It was.
Oh, that's true.
It was
What am
a
I
little,
talking about?
but there's not a lot of them. I mean,
You mean there's no longer going to be any issues?
I don't know.
Big Star magazine.
I picked up tickets for the Squeeze.
Oh
50.
wow!
Oh wow!
I noticed they're not. They're only doing stuff in the UK though. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I wish they would come back here.
Yeah. No,
but I did get to see him about 4 years ago in New York, so that was great.
I think there's room for a brand new zine for reviews.
Yeah, why not?
Reviews, articles, that kind of thing. Get a bunch of people involved.
There's definitely room.
I think so.
All right.
We've got the built-in name, Material Issues.
That's right.
I love it. I love
something to consider, and we've certainly got a big enough membership base on Facebook. So
oh yeah.
If even a healthy percentage of those people were to subscribe to the issue, maybe we could make it work.
Yeah. Because I know self-publishing things on the internet is very simple and viable.
You know what we need though? We need a music lawyer to help us set this up. Who do we know?
If we only know, I don't know.
Damn,
if anybody has any ideas,
I don't.
Please drop in the comments of if anybody knows a music or entertainment attorney. I just can't put. I don't want to get screwed. Is the thing.
Yeah, but it needs to be someone who can't name their clients.
Yeah,
only somebody like that.
I don't know who it would be.
Mystique. We need someone with a mystique.
It's great. Well, we'll think about that. So, everybody keep it in mind.
I like that. Yeah, I like it in theory. Certainly, we'll see we'll see if we can execute it in practice.
That'd be cool.
All right,
my friend. Well,
this was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's 131 episodes. None of them have not been fun.
Some have been a little frustrating.
Some have been interesting and frustrating and different, but in the end, they were always fun.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones that were frustrating in many ways had laughable moments that we can reflect upon. We can still laugh about it.
We still laugh about it. Well, have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Material Issues. We will see you next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, when our guest will be our good friend, Mr. Bruce Brodeen. We'll talk.
Hopefully back with my laptop. This iPad is so disorienting.
Like, you're holding up the wrong two fingers.
Oh, I got a finger for you.
All right. See you, my friend. Love Tarina.
Stay safe. Love to Chaz. Stay safe.